When Jenna and Mason bought the old Cape Cod house in upstate New York, they thought it was the beginning of something peaceful. The realtor had smiled too much, repeating that word, charming. And neither of them noticed how the curtains in the attic window never moved with the wind. It was their second night when the rain began, thin, cold, endless. While trying to silence a chirping smoke detector, Jenna stood on a chair and spotted a small square hatch on the hallway ceiling. A string dangled from it, frayed and gray. She tugged it gently. The wooden panel groaned open, releasing a draft of cold, dusty air. Mason steadied the folding ladder as she climbed with a flashlight clenched between her teeth. The attic was shallow, lined with plywood and old insulation. The beam of light landed on something strange, a wall where there shouldn't have been one. According to the house's layout, the attic was open space, but this looked like a narrow partition, maybe 3 feet deep. She crept closer and saw a small, square door with an iron latch, painted the same off-white as the walls. She pulled it open. The smell hit first: old paper, rust, and mildew. The hidden room was no bigger than a closet. On one side, metal shelves sagged under the weight of VHS tapes, all neatly labeled with numbers, 001 to 041, then a gap, then 043 to 078. On a crate sat a portable TV/VCR combo. Its screen yellowed with age. Beside it lay a notebook filled with narrow, tidy handwriting. Words like angles, sightlines, and transit times covered the pages. They carried a few tapes downstairs. The rain outside thickened as they wiped the dust away. The first tape clicked in with a hiss. On screen, this same living room decades ago. A couple entered, laughing, carrying moving boxes. The camera's position was low, almost hidden near the floorboards. The footage was silent except for the faint hum of old electronics. The next tape showed the same room at night. The couple slept on the floor. At 2:14 a.m., a shadow crossed the wall behind them, even though the light had been off. Mason frowned. Where was that camera? There's no corner there. Jenna paused the tape. The angle didn't exist. In their current layout, it looked like it came from inside the wall. They checked the room. Nothing. No holes, no screws, no signs of a camera. Jenna muted the TV. Beneath the hum of the rain, she heard something faint from the speaker. A whisper, almost like breathing words too quietly to form. She unmuted it. The voice, low and close, said, "Don't let them know." Mason turned pale. "This is sick. We should stop." But Jenna was already sliding in another tape. This one was labeled April 24th, their closing date. Static, then a live image of their living room, exactly as it was now. The same rug, the same unpacked boxes, the same ladder still near the hatch. Jenna checked the time on her phone, 9:06 p.m. The timestamp on the tape read 21:07. A woman appeared on screen, entering the frame with a flashlight in her mouth, hair damp from rain. Jenna froze. It was her. She watched herself look directly into the camera, eyes wide. On the screen, the other Jenna raised a finger to her lips and whispered, perfectly clear through the static, "Don't. Turn." Around, the TV flickered. The lights dimmed. Mason swore and lunged for the power button, but the image froze on Jenna's face, those terrified eyes staring right back at them. And in the reflection of the TV glass, something behind them shifted. If you felt the chill, hit subscribe and comment Tape 041 to uncover what happens next. Jenna's heart thudded as the frozen image of her own terrified face glowed in the dark. Mason killed the power and the screen went black, but the silence that followed was louder than the rain outside. She could still feel that whisper crawling through her skin. "Don't turn around." For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Mason stood up, voice trembling. "It's a trick. Someone's been here." They searched the house. Every creak sounded alive, every shadow heavier than it should be. In the living room, behind the vent, Mason found something glinting, a tiny black lens no larger than a bead. Dust clung to it like spider silk. "This is a camera," he muttered. Jenna pulled the attic notebook closer. The pages were filled with sketches of their home, hand-drawn lines showing angles, arrows, and circles labeled blind spots. Whoever made these plans had studied every corner of this place. When they climbed back into the attic, the hidden room looked different, less like a secret, more like a nest. There was a rolled blanket, a bottle of water, and a cracked mirror propped against the wall. Next to it sat a stack of Polaroids, tied with a brittle rubber band. Jenna flipped through them. The first showed their driveway, then their moving truck, then, her breath caught, the attic ladder from above, and Mason's back as he carried boxes inside. The last photo was stamped with their closing date. They hurried downstairs, clutching a handful of tapes. The next one they played began in their bedroom. The camera was angled low, close to the floor. For nearly 2 minutes, nothing moved. Then, a pale hand appeared from beneath the bed frame. A man unfolded himself from the shadows, tall and frail, with sunken eyes and thin grey hair. He stood perfectly still, looking toward the camera as though waiting for direction. Then, without a sound, he slipped out of the room. Jenna's skin crawled. "That's not old footage," she whispered. The furniture was theirs, the curtains new, the bedding the same color they bought last week. Mason grabbed the remote, his knuckles white. "He was here. He's been here." They both turned toward the ceiling where the attic hatch sat closed and silent. Tape 63 showed another night. Their bed again, this time with 2 bodies under the blanket. Jenna and Mason. The man crawled out once more, slower, closer to the lens. His finger rose to his lips. A faint hum filled the room. Then, the timestamp flickered to the current date and time. "This can't be happening," Mason breathed. A soft creak echoed above them, the sound of weight shifting on plywood. Jenna stared at the ceiling, certain she could hear slow, measured breathing behind the plaster. The TV flickered, showing only static now. But within the static, a shape seemed to pulse in rhythm with her heartbeat. Mason gripped the crowbar from the toolbox. "We stay here until morning," he said. "We don't go up there." Jenna nodded, but her eyes were fixed on the attic ladder. It was trembling, as if someone on the other side was testing its strength. Dust fell, floating like pale ash. Then a voice, soft, cracked, drifted down. "I can go," it said. "This is a mistake." Jenna froze. The voice wasn't angry, it was gentle, almost apologetic. The hatch opened halfway. A face appeared through the darkness. Pale skin, hollow cheeks, eyes so light they barely looked human. The man climbed down one rung, whispering again, "I can go if you want." Mason lifted the crowbar higher. "Stay right there," he ordered. The man smiled faintly. "You moved the cameras," he said. You shouldn't have done that." Outside, a distant siren rose and faded, swallowed by the storm. Inside, only the old man's breath filled the silence. If this part made your heart race, hit subscribe and comment Attic Hatch to unlock the chilling finale. The man's pale face hovered above the ladder like something between a nightmare and a confession. His eyes didn't hold fear, only exhaustion, like he'd been waiting years for someone to finally notice him. "I lived here before you," he whispered. "They told me to leave. But the house, she doesn't forget her people." Mason kept the crowbar raised, though his hands trembled. "Get out." Now, the man blinked slowly. "You don't understand. The walls, remember." He climbed down another rung, barefoot, leaving smudges on the ladder. His thin shirt clung to his skin, and the smell of damp insulation and rust followed him. Jenna stepped back. "You filmed us," she said. "You've been in our rooms." "I recorded the house," he replied, almost pleading, "to learn how it breathes. The cameras help me see what it sees. When new people come, they change its rhythm." Jenna realized then that the tapes weren't about spying. They were obsession, ritual. He believed the house spoke to him. Her gaze shifted to the notebook still on the couch. Words written over and over. Angles, sightlines, stay inside. The handwriting grew more frantic with each line, letters collapsing into one another. The man reached the last rung and stepped onto the floor. Mason lunged forward, blocking his way. "You're not staying here." The man smiled faintly, and for the first time, something cruel flickered in his expression. "You don't tell the house what to do in. It tells you." Before Mason could respond, the lights flickered and the TV turned itself on. Static again, but beneath the noise, a faint image appeared. The living room, the same scene, them, right now. But in the reflection of the TV screen, Jenna saw movement that didn't belong to anyone present. Someone standing behind the camera's perspective, unseen. The man looked up at the screen, serene. "She's watching," he murmured. "She doesn't like when people lie." Then he pointed at the image of himself on the TV. "Watch closely. It's about to end." The picture brightened. On screen, police lights flared red and blue through the windows. The timestamp read 6 minutes into the future. Jenna's recorded self was on the phone. Mason stood on the porch, shouting at someone just out of frame. The old man wasn't visible at all. Jenna dialed 911 without thinking. Her voice shook. "There's a man in our house." As she spoke, the siren from the screen echoed faintly outside. Real this time. The man laughed, soft and broken. "It always happens like this." Police lights flooded the front windows. Mason yanked open the door, waving frantically. Officers burst in, with flashlights raised, but when they climbed into the attic, it was empty. No cot, no batteries, no notebooks, not even dust where the wall had been. Only bare beams and silence. Downstairs, one officer asked questions Jenna barely heard. She stared at the TV, where the static slowly resolved into one final image, the mirror in their bedroom. Behind the glass, barely visible, a faint red light blinked, as if something was still recording. The next morning, a package arrived at their doorstep. No return address. Inside was a small USB drive and a note. "The house chose you. Keep recording." Jenna plugged it into her laptop, heart pounding. Dozens of new video files filled the screen, each labeled by date. The latest was stamped with today's. When she played it, the footage showed the living room, empty except for her and Mason, standing exactly as they were now, staring at a computer. The video continued for 10 seconds. Then, in the background, the attic hatch began to open. If you dared to reach the end, hit subscribe and comment "We see you" to prove you survived the story.